Wait, remember Dragon Booster? It was the first animation project of the newly established Nerdcore Entertainment, which is criminally overlooked today. The series sports an impressive Gemini Award win for Best Animated Series and is recognized for its revolutionary animation technique mixed with episodic storytelling in children's action television. And I haven't even mentioned the unique and engaging world building that it achieved. Created by Rob Travaglino and Kevin Maurer, the series was very popular with audiences worldwide, and even had a more impressively sized toy market than most animated series at the time. Despite not living past 39 episodes, the series sports a wider range of toys and merchandise, including McDonald's Happy Meal toys in both the UK and US, and tons of action figures featuring multiple dragons and characters from the show. There was also a Dragon Booster Nintendo DS game released in December of 2005. So with what seems like a pretty large reach into the international audience, toy market, and general positive consensus with fans, why didn't the series continue despite there being plans for more? And why is it not remembered as much today? Looking back at the series, which kind of felt like a fever dream, was actually a really fun experience, one that truly surprised me. If you enjoy the video, you better subscribe, put those dragons in turbo mode, because we're going to speed right into the world of Draconis with Dragon Booster.
This is exactly why I like video game dragons better than real ones. Dumb dragon.
Our story starts on the world of Draconis, which had been subject to a large war that broke out 2,000 years ago. In the legend that is shared as the opening to each episode, we learn about how it ended with the legendary gold dragon of legend choosing one human as its rider to eradicate the war and bring peace to both sides, so that they may coexist. I bet you can see where this is going. Our story in Dragon Booster takes place 2,000 years following the war, when tensions are rising and many people are anticipating another war to break out. Our main character is Arthur Penn, a teenager who is the son of a dragon racing company owner. His father, Connor Penn, was a huge believer in the inevitable war, and wanting to assure that it would be shut down quickly, was working to breed another legendary golden dragon. And he did. He was successful in breeding Bo, short for Bocephalus, who quickly becomes friends with Arthur, and after a perilous evening with our main villains, who I will introduce later, Arthur is chosen and bonded with Bo as the new Dragon Booster. This solidifies his future as a destined peacekeeper who will unite both humans and dragons once more, eliminating the inevitable war between them both. Arthur Penn is our main character, voiced by Matt Hill. Arthur was initially completely disinterested in dragon racing, preferring video games and hanging out with his friend Parman, instead of helping his dad out in the stables. But as I mentioned before in the first episode, this all completely changes. He loses his dad and his home as we know it, making Bo and his little brother Lance the more important things in his life. He decides to start racing, putting his and Bo's bond to good use, and we get to know his character more as the series progresses. Initially, I wasn't a huge fan of Arthur's character. He's characterized as brash and egotistical. His overconfidence in so many situations just makes me want to pull my hair out, but he becomes more tolerable as the series goes on. Either I started to get used to his personality, or he actually grew along with the series. Gonna give him the benefit of the doubt and say it's the latter.
Now you shall feel the full extent of my wrath.
Coming to Jetix.
Now, back to Dragon Booster.
Bo himself is interesting. He is actually considered the real main character by a lot of fans, given how integrated he is in each episode. He not only alludes to understanding everything his human counterparts are saying, but also is even given his own voice, kind of. He makes noises other than just general dragon roars. And we get to learn that the dragons themselves are intellectual beings and have complex thoughts, but the one thing that separates them from the humans is communication, at least in the form of understanding each other's languages fully. And Bo is pretty integral in the plot progression. I don't think anyone would disagree with me there. Due to his appearance being unique and literally alluding to his identity as the Golden Dragon of Legend, he often transforms sporting a new color palette that's blue and red. This is mainly to avoid attention of their enemies and main villains of the series, Word Pain, and his sidekick son, Mordred Pain. Word is voiced by Mark Oliver. His main goal in the series is to blow up and okay, I've made that joke too many times. His goal is to instigate or just prevent the prevention of the dragon and human war. His main philosophy being that the war is inevitable. He may as well just grab the reins while he can, so that he can benefit from the outcomes of it. He's the CEO of Pain Inc., which manufactures racing or battling gear for the dragons and their riders, because you can trick out the dragons like a car. And knowing this, his desire for the war to begin makes so much more sense. Mordred Payne, voiced by Trevor Duvall, is Word's loyal son, a young character who we immediately see is truly just a product of his environment. He's absolutely the most interesting character of the series, as his character progresses from blind faith in his father to questioning everything he's ever been taught, and maybe the term loyal son is not applicable anymore. But that's not to say he just turns a coin and joins Artha's side. He takes his own path and becomes sort of a warped anti-hero, eventually becoming Artha's rival as the Shadow Booster. Lance is Artha's younger brother, his voice provided by Kathleen Barr. Lance is actually a pretty wise character despite serving as the comedic side character. He seems to come in clutch a lot, that is, when the older characters actually listen to him. Their dad is Connor Penn, voiced by Gary Chalk. He kind of serves as a general spiritual guide like that of Mufasa, not really treating his kids like kids but like prophecies, giving them strange philosophical messages. We technically don't see Connor for the bulk of the entire series, but overall, he is a pretty interesting character who is heavily tied into the lore of it all. Parman Shan, or as I like to call him, Parmesan, is voiced by Lee Takar. He is Artha's best friend and technological genius when it comes to any additional assistance Artha may need when competing in races or fighting his enemies. Maybe it's the British accent, maybe it's the cheesy name, or maybe even his technological clumsiness, but I sort of consider Parman to be the actual comedic relief character, more so than Lance. Once we get into the groove of the show, with the assembly of the Penn Racing crew, we get to know the other side characters as well, including Kit Wan, voiced by Lenore Zan. Kit was known as one of the best street racers in Dragon City, and she has the attitude to back it up. She's intensely confident to the point where it kind of becomes unbearable, but nevertheless, she, along with her dragon Wildfire, have a strong bond that absolutely comes in handy when it comes to defeating Word Payne, and in general, for stopping the war. Another character that we meet is Mortis, a dragon priest who becomes Artha's mentor, who really isn't a new character at all, but actually, I'll let you discover that as you make your way through the show. They are a masked guardian figure that mysteriously appears in Artha's life. We dig into this character and find out his connections to the story. I think it's pretty easy to follow along where this character comes from and their goals as they come into the picture. Whether you agree with this character's actions or not, they serve a main purpose in aiding Artha on his journey to be the best that he can be, and prepared for anything that comes his way. The series was created by the duo Rob Trevelino and Kevin Maurer of the Story Hat Animation Studio in Rhode Island. The idea was originally from one of Kevin's short stories, which already contained a lot of the vision and world building introduced in the series. Right off the bat, Rob was impressed and they went straight into figuring out how they can make this series happen. There was something truly epic and deeply empowering at its center, just waiting to be discovered, and I wanted to stand in this world as any number of possible characters to explore its history and live the hero's journey. Rob helped expand Kevin's already established premise, combining both feelings of something legendary or mythic and something that is fresh and unique. The two of them approached the project from a wide lens, wanting to lay a foundation in psychological, social, and cultural significance, rivaling that of Star Wars, in their words. Both of them were already familiar with Asaf Fibke, who would later be known for other TV series of his own making, like Slugterra and Stormhawks. As I went over in the Slugterra and Stormhawks video, Nerdcore was founded in 2002 by Asaf and Chuck Johnson, after they left a larger animation company called Mainframe Entertainment. Mainframe was actually where they became familiar with each other, and Rob and Kevin claimed that Nerdcore was actually custom built for Dragon Booster. Their first pass at an animation test was made with the help of Nerdcore in a rented apartment that was packed with workstations and animators. From there, they pride themselves on how quickly they sold the show to CBC and Disney. It premiered on October 23rd, 2004 in the US on Toon Disney and the Jetix block, and 3 days later in Canada on the CBC network. It also aired on Jetix in Mexico and on ABC in Australia. The series had a really good international audience as well, which is attributed to its great success initially and the shock when it was not picked up for a fourth season or any continuation following the initial 39 episode order.
The terrible dragon-human war is coming. Go to Dragon Booster.
The animation style was praised during the time for being unique and futuristic. At that time when it was airing in 2004, computer animation was a fairly new concept for cartoons on television, and it became a rush for many studios and creators to jump aboard to give it a shot. Shows like Code Lyoko were just starting to play around with the concept of blending 2D and 3D, getting comfortable with the inevitable cost-effective switch that many networks would champion. And that's why the early 2000s are filled with so many shows that weren't your average traditional 2D animation anymore. But the CG animation is not just your regular computer animation here. It's a bit of a blend, laying the foundation for many more nerdcore animations to follow. The series used a bit of both to ease the transition. While the series is technically all computer animation, it does, however, sport a lot of strategic shading that flattens the characters to appear as if they are in 2D animation. And it works. The black outlines, the very distinct colors, they all create this illusion that you're looking at a traditional animation. All in all, when looking at some of Nerdcore's other projects, it's definitely not as pretty, but it's still incredible, especially if you recognize that the series art was a necessary stepping stone to the more aesthetically pleasing looks of Stormhawks and Slugterra. It's clear that Rob and Kevin had a ton of world building to get out of their system, and something tells me that we only have been able to experience a fraction of what they would have had to offer for this world and expanding on stuff like Draconium. There is so much to learn about the different types of dragons, what colors signify what through Draconium and Mag Energy, and they even created their own alphabet that mirrors and closely resembles the traditional English alphabet. And all this information was conveniently located in one place called dragoncity.org, which now serves as a form of archival method for all of this great information, including the original sneak peeks, trailers, character info, even fan art and fan fiction was unloaded to this site. Also on this site, both Rob and Kevin were very active in communicating with fans. Rob's online name was Magna Draconis, after the giant book of ancient knowledge, where fans could regularly ask questions and be in contact with the show's co-creators. This was also a great source to organize fan involvement when it came to the series not being renewed past 39 episodes. There were a lot of plans for the future of Dragon Booster. Rob and Kevin had already written a screenplay for a live-action feature film. It would serve as a prequel, going into more detail about the evolution into the present series, with a new protagonist, Tanis Blair, the leader of the Gold Draconian Dragon priests who trained both young Connor and Word in the priesthood. They also were planning a 26-episode follow-up series called Dragon Booster Academy, which immerses the viewer within a new setting within Dragon City, the Dragon City Racing Academy. It would kind of take on the traditional structures of a high school series like teenage drama and competition. And of all the ideas for the series, this sounds like such a fun location to zoom in on, kind of resembling the way Yu-Gi-Oh went after the main traditional series of Yu-Gi-Oh ended and we would end up going to Yu-Gi-Oh GX, which focused on an academy. Lastly, there is an additional episode written by Rob in the form of a screenplay specifically for fans to enjoy, as it was never intended to be produced. It is titled Dragon Booster Episode 000 The Alchemist. Rob wrote it in 2008 and it's intended to take place 16 years prior to the first episode of Dragon Booster. It serves the main purpose to fill in a lot of the missing backstory for fans that were curious enough to take to the internet and be active on their websites and fan forums. Lastly, a series of books were released in 2005 and 2006, such as the Ultimate Dragon Booster Scrapbook, and 8-chapter books like The Choosing, Release the Dragon, Into the Fire, and more. When reflecting on why the series didn't continue, it's reported that voice actor of Artha, Matt Hill, stated at an Otakuthon in 2006 that the series wasn't selling enough action figures, but I really can't track down the original source of that interview, so I wouldn't quote me on that specifically. But it would make sense, as I mentioned in the beginning of the series, that there were a lot of toys and action figures produced, so it would make a lot of sense that more episodes weren't worth the risk if toy sales were even subpar at best. And we see a lot of shows get affected by their toy sales, so it's not far off speculation. I specifically remember having one or two of the figures from the series, but I know one of those for sure was from a fast food kids meal, and not the actual for sale, more sculpted toys you could get. I have always liked the designs in the show. I thought the dragons themselves looked pretty dang cool, and the aesthetic of the world, the whole show in general, truly is what made the show memorable for me. Some of the human characters do look look a bit janky in trying to have that mixed 2D yet still CG look, but I can get past this as the story, the action, and the dragons themselves had me a lot more invested. Dragon Booster was a great series that got its opportunity to tell its story in the original 39 episodes planned out. It is a shame that the following media that was planned did not get a chance, but 3 seasons still isn't bad at all. I enjoyed my time with it, and I would love to hear your thoughts on the show as well, so let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, like and subscribe. Later.